So, the Bay of Plenty, realizing San Francisco's advanced air mobility network with Archer.
Yeah.
So, Brian, if you could begin with an introduction, that would be great, and then get into bringing us up to speed and to what Archer's been up to recently.
Yep. Brian Bernhardt, Chief Growth and Infrastructure Officer at Archer Aviation. Previous to Archer, I spent 10 years at WeWork, growing their global footprint. Built 1,000 locations in 20 different countries, and as I was traveling to each country, there was constantly the same issue where you would land at a city center and you'd try to get to and from the locations, so there has to be a better way to be traveling. And so came to Archer about 2 years ago to really grow the real estate side of the infrastructure, really understanding that this is and will be a real estate problem. You know, we're gonna get the vehicle certified, the vehicles are gonna be flying, AAM is gonna come off the ground. The question is, where do the vehicles go? Who does it serve? How do we get it into people's hands that really want to consume this? And so that's my role here, and I help to curate the Bay Area network. What that really is crystallizing what the AAM go-to-market plans will be for eVTOLs. And so in the Bay Area, I don't know if we have the visual up or not, but...
Can we get the visual up on screen of the proposed route map, please?
Excellent. So what you see here is the AAM network. And so in early years, what will be is mostly existing aviation backbone. So about 80% of the network that you see here will be our FBO partners at Signature, Atlantic, and others at some of the major airports, as well as GA airports. And so you have San Jose, Oakland, Livermore, Napa. And so these are both major and GA airports that, are struggling sometimes to find their footing in communities. And so the local GA airports see AAM service as a way to really create a new use case and really be more integrated into the communities. And so what we're doing here is taking about 80% of existing aviation assets, and then we're putting in a new use case, which is with our partners at Kilroy Real Estate Trust. And so in South San Francisco, there's a work development at Oyster Point. And so Oyster Point has headquarters for Stripe and about 2.5 million square feet of other office tenants. And they struggle sometimes to get traffic there. And so what we're doing now is building a multi-use terminal, which will be electric ferry and eVTOLs at Oyster Point. And you're now seeing the connectivity to all these other points of the Bay Area. And so what we're doing here is our launch network. This is the very first version, baseline, if you will, of what the network will look like. We're servicing all different points of interest across the Bay Area, but what you can start to see is everyone's very aware of the major, hub and spoke source where you can be at San Jose and go up to SFO if you need to, or be able to get to the airport. What people don't understand, and was just talked about a second ago, is there are a bunch of other really exciting use cases for this service. And so what you see here is getting people to and from work from Kilroy, which previously was a very challenging place to get to. They're now flipping it on its head and saying, well, wait a second, where this is located on water, we can build a terminal that can service both electric ferries and eVTOLs. And now what previously was a weakness is now a strength for our real estate development. And so what's happening now is that people can live in Livermore, Oakland, Napa, San Jose, but also come to work every single day in South San Francisco. And so that really is opening up eyes, which I think will be a new phase of this industry. We're obviously going to service airports, but when real estate developers really start to see this as an amenity that can attract real estate developments, this is when you start to see some of those unique use cases for this vehicle and this service.
So why does the Bay Area make sense as a location for Archer? And can you draw any parallels with other locations you've announced?
Sure. So one, we're based in San Jose, and so we thought it was very prudent and very important to make sure that the Bay Area was the first announcement that we had. Also, if you've ever traveled on the 101 before, trying to get to and from San Francisco, you know that that is a multi-hour commute, very frustrated coming and going. And so there is definitely I would say that the multiple of factors that include willingness to pay, the ability to be able to service multi-hour routes in 10 to 15 minutes, as well as some of our strongest airline partners, Southwest and United, also service here. And so it's all those factors that kind of light up the Bay Area, as well as you talk about this is only the very first baseline network that we announced. there is tremendous upside here. And so what you don't see here is Marin County, which has a tremendous amount. If you talk to any airlines, most of their premium flyers live in Marin County. You're not connecting to Los Gatos, all the other areas here. This map over the next 5 to 10 years, it's almost like a cell phone tower map, as you talked about, the very first nodes, then over time, the strength of the signal gets stronger and stronger. The same thing will happen with this network. There'll be a bunch of other nodes that come in, and you'll start to see a ton of connectivity.
So thinking about growing that network, can you give us any details on what an at-scale operation might look like, potentially rough fleet size, flights per day, et cetera?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the Bay Area, I don't want to say limitless, but it does certainly has a tremendous upside, and probably more upside than almost any other market besides maybe LA and New York City, in a sense that we certainly see there being at least 10 to 20 different vertiports in the scaled network, 20 to 40 vehicles flying at the same time. I mean, we're really excited about this network. There's so many work use cases. Think about all the Fortune 50 companies and all their work developments. And as people start to really understand how sticky and exciting this service is, I think there's going to be tremendous use cases here. San Francisco proper isn't even on this map yet. We know there's a lot of discussions being had there. And so there's upside. I would say 10 to 20 vertiports at a minimum. 20 to 40 vehicles for Archer is probably like a good scale to start, but I think there's even more upside there.
And if you had to put a sort of timeline on when you hope you might be able to see that happening, what would that be?
You know, I think it's a 3 to 5 year horizon. I think for us, you know, we're really excited about potential of operating in 2026. You know, where we see the paths going with the FAA and certification right now. As I say, industry is very much so circling 2026 as like our big year to break through. And then it's about scaling up. You know, we have some really exciting events coming here with World Cups and Olympics in the greater California market. And so I think everybody in the world is watching and really wants 28 to be the year that we are usually flying these at a decent operational pace, and then it really scales up. So I'd say 3 to 5 years, 2030 is a really good announcement. We'll get like full scale at this network.
So up to now, we've focused on the Bay Area, but Archer's a global company with a global outlook, and you've made a number of announcements this year, particularly in the UAE and Japan. Care to give us some more color on those, please?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as I said, previous to joining Archer, I was at WeWork for 10 years, flying to every single country, building workspaces there. And so it's not uncommon for that to be a problem, getting to and from airport to city center. And so, of course, every single country is starting to understand that we're getting closer and closer to certification, and they want to be left behind. And so Japan and UAE are probably two of our, or previously announced, and two countries right now that are the most excited about this service. There's a bunch of really great flight expos happening next year in Osaka and other areas. We announced a partnership with Japan Airlines. And so those are probably our two biggest announcements internationally. And so for us, those cities also represent an area that can utilize this service and have a lot of those same issues, you know, willingness to pay, be able to take multiple trips that are an hour and a half with traffic down to 10 and 20 minutes. And I think those will be very, very flourishing markets for us.
What excites you about the UAE, for example?
Yeah. So UAE, I would say, is a very favorable regulatory environment, is one that we see a lot of, in the sense that they have very strong partnerships with the FAA. And so they have a very safe and stable civil aviation group as well, but they also want to be innovative. And so if you've ever been to UAE or Dubai and Abu Dhabi, you see that, you know, from an infrastructure side, they build things that you've never seen in your entire life. And so they have landscapes and be able to curate landscapes and islands that we could only dream of. And so for them, they have even grander visions. And so one of the ways to kind of unlock some of those grand visions is to provide this level of transportation service. And so for us, it's kind of what I say a lot, and I go to different countries, we talk about this service, we talk about the different regulators. When you receive us with open arms and it's very collaborative and you want to make this happen, it certainly makes us even more excited to jump and dive in. And so in the UAE, I'd say what makes me most excited is if you've ever seen the palms that they've built there or any of the other real estate developments, you start to understand, like, well, wait a second. If you now unlock the ability to travel in and around land with this service, they're going to unlock the next version of those developments. And I think that's something that I'm super excited about, as well as the willingness to pay and operate there is super exciting.
How key would you say is the existence of a bilateral agreement with the FAA when you're looking at a new international market?
Very important. And so, and I'm sure probably everybody knows this, but Billy Nolan, former acting administrator of the FAA, stepped down and came to work for Archer. And so he echoes every single day the importance to make sure that the FAA, a 40,000 person organization, is aligned with this industry. And so we are not looking to bypass them. We're looking to work with them. We're looking to work together. I think it will only help industry to see from the FAA all these other civil aviation authorities looking to, offer their resources and support. And so I think it is absolutely critical.
So thinking now about your recently published Q3 results, it's seen you ramp up costs while you're ready for commercialization. Would you say the company is happy with its current position? And
Yep.
do you have a clear idea of when you predict you'll start to make money?
Yeah, I think for us, we're super excited in our position. We just completed a recent fundraise. I think we're right now heads down. We've completed 400 flight tests this year. We've just finished construction in our manufacturing facility, which we're going to make a ton of announcements about in the coming weeks and months. And so it's heads down, focusing on manufacturing, focusing on continual flight tests, first piloted flight tests. Those are all really near-term milestones that are very critical and very dense, complicated problems. And so, we completed our fundraise. Really, a lot of our meetings right now in HQ are really, norming and swarming and trying to find creative solutions, safe solutions to problems. And so we are myopically focused on executing. Definitely a little bit, let's say, turning away a little bit from press and other exciting news. We're really more focused on executing because for us, we're in that critical junction now of the industry where a lot of promises have been made, a lot of really exciting things have been said, but now it's about executing and delivering on those promises. So I would say in terms of making money, I think, we're obviously all targeting our first commercial flight at the end of 25, early 26, and so that's, the date that we're all circling to start to get revenue in on that side.
So I'll put it out to the audience. Do we have any questions for Archer? Can we get a mic down here, please?
I don't need a mic.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Loud enough. My name is Bill Minkoff. I've spent 37 years in aviation, so I've kind of figured out half of it. My question for you is very simple, looking at you right now. Are you going to be at the same level of safety as United Airlines?
The same level of safety as United Airlines? Yeah, I think for us, what's obviously safety is paramount to everything that we do. We have multiple different safety organizations. We're obviously going to get the vehicle certified with the FAA. And so for us, comparing to United Airlines, who's our biggest partner, I'd say that you should probably expect that we're going to be at that same level because to do the things that they do, we announced a partnership where they're purchasing 200 vehicles from us. For us to do that, they're obviously going to put us through and make sure we're holding ourselves accountable to a tremendous level of safety.
So the question I have is, United pays their pilots an average of $8.30 a minute. And if you're going to have two pilots in the airplane, and you have what I call a carrying cost of retirement, benefits, Social Security, and all the stuff you pay in, that comes to about $25 a minute for a crew. So if you fly at $25 a minute and you fly a 15-minute leg, okay, now you're talking about almost $400 for the 15-minute leg. What's the value proposition? How do you make money?
Does Archer as an entity make money?
You're an OEM operator.
Sure.
And it costs you $400 to go from Napa to South to Kilroy. Okay.
Yep.
And you have 4 people on the airplane. Okay. How do you make money? That's just crew cost. Let's say round it off to $400 an hour for crew cost, or $400 for 15-minute crew cost. How do you make money when you have to pay for the airplane and for
Sure.
everything else, maintenance and everything else that goes in there? What's the value proposition?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, this is a very dense topic of how to make money. It's tough for me to break it down in this particular section, but I would say a bunch of things to consider. First is that in terms of the overall cost profile of this vehicle and the operational cost of this vehicle versus traditional rotorcraft is certainly going to be cheaper. I think maintenance is a great area to talk about. We're expecting very low maintenance in comparison to existing rotorcraft. So I think there's a cost competition there that I think is very exciting. We also talk about the level of service that we're willing to offer. And so for us, if you look at existing helicopters, which are loud, I'd say certainly, unfortunately, a little bit unsafe and then not sustainable, versus us, which is an all-electric vehicle, 100 times quieter than a helicopter. We're obviously working with our partners on that pricing model. It's a dynamic pricing model as well, pretty similar to Uber. And so, for us, I think that the value proposition of our service, which you're in a low noise, fully sustainable solution to go from South San Francisco to Napa with 4 passengers, I think there's more than enough on the pie there for us to make money. And I think we're really excited about getting into the nuts and bolts of it.
Well, Brian, thanks so much. It's been great having you on.
Cool. Thank you.
And